Good afternoon, all. On behalf of IoT Academy, we welcome you all for the one-day session of National Level Virtual Skill Development Program on the Art of Writing Dissertation. Let me introduce the resource person of today's session, Dr. Vidya Arjun Rao Nagre. She is currently working as an Associate Professor of English in Ajinkya Legal Public University, Pune. Dr. Vidya has been teaching linguistics, English language, and literature for 12 years. Her qualifications include MA, MPhil, and PhD in English. Dr. Vidya is a PhD Guide of English and an honorable member of the Board of Studies. She has to her credit several articles published in national and international journals and conferences. Besides teaching, she is a recognized translator and a certified examiner for Cambridge. She has also worked as a moderator, syllabus, and curriculum designer expert in various institutions. With this, we hand over the session to Dr. Vidya. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, IoT, for the wonderful opportunity to talk on an important topic, the art of writing dissertation. Before I begin, I would like to check few things. Am I audible properly?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible and your slides are visible.
Yes, the screen is visible, right? Yeah. Can you see the slideshow? Is it visible?
Ma'am, it is not being displayed as a slideshow, ma'am.
Can you see the screen that is changed? I mean, the slide that is changed.
No, ma'am, I can see just the first slide, ma'am. The slides are not changing also.
What about now?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. But it's not being displayed as a slideshow, ma'am. It is not in full screen.
Yeah, I did that, but I think that was not visible somehow. Can you see it now?
No, ma'am, it's not being displayed as a slideshow, ma'am.
Okay, wait a second. Allow me to reshare it. Can you tell it if it is visible?
Yes, ma'am. Now it is visible, ma'am. Thank you.
What about now? Can you see the next slide that has been changed?
Yes, ma'am. The slides are changing also.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
So thank you so much once again, IIT. Today we will be discussing on a very important topic, the art of writing dissertation. So there might be many students here who are really interested in research, who might be pursuing their undergraduation or want to pursue their masters or their MPhil, and that is why they want to write a dissertation. So if you have something in that mind, then congratulations, first of all, because taking interest into research is the first step marching towards writing dissertation. Research is something that needs a keen interest and a very proper methodology and a very directed leading towards fulfilling of your goal. It is a very systematic plan that has several components which have to be taken care of. And then those components should be very systematically represented throughout your book of, or let's say, dissertation. That is just not a writing, but a journey that you have had been, the kind of work you have undertaken, the kind of research you have conducted, the amount of study you have done, at the same time, the conclusions to which you have arrived. Investigating the research problem and leading to the conclusion is a journey of writing a dissertation. So basically, a dissertation or a thesis is a lengthy piece of academic writing based on original research that is submitted as a part of your bachelor's, your master's program, such as MA degree or might be MSc, or even for MPhil, you have to write a dissertation. The structure of a dissertation varies depending on your field, but it is typically divided into 4 to 5 chapters, including an introduction and conclusion chapter. So basically, thesis is a larger version of a dissertation. Dissertation consists of around 100 to 150 pages. But from university, there are different notes. I had a teacher who have completed his degree from a university in UK, and he had to write only a dissertation of only 60 to 80 pages. And that was a strict norm. He cannot exceed beyond that. So if you compare in certain Indian university and Western university, the norms might be different. So you have to be aware about that. So there are certain varieties of dissertations, as I said, and here are some examples. So if you are writing a dissertation in humanities, then it is in the form of a long essay, developing an overall sense of argument revolving around the central thesis or central dissertation. The chapters are organized around diverse case studies and themes. If you go for empirical research, then it is in the subjects like sciences or social sciences. The dissertation is going to feature all the components that we are about to discuss below. In certain cases, they are dealt in a separate chapter, while in others, we are required to combine them as per requirement. For example, in specific types of qualitative social science, the discussion as well as the results are woven together than being dealt separately. Now you have to first understand what is qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is dealing with data, textual data, or on literature based, more on literature. When you go for quantitative, it deals with the numbers, the amount yeah, or the numbers with which you are dealing with. If the problem is revolving, the problem of your research is revolving around the certain numbers, growth or decreasing or increasing of the numbers, then that goes under the quantitative, not qualitative. So this is an overall structure. This structure has been made by considering keeping into consideration various kinds of disciplines, but basically here we will be focusing more on sciences and social sciences and humanities. The most common dissertation structure in the sciences, social sciences, as well as in humanities includes an introduction of your topic, a literature review that surveys relevant resources, an explanation of your methodology, an overview of the result of your research, a discussion of the result and their implications, and a conclusion that shows what your research has contributed. So this is just a skeleton. There are many more elements which come before introduction, and there are many more elements which come after conclusion. We will be discussing those in the table of contents. So basically, when you talk about introduction of your topic, it means that giving an overview of what kind of research you have done and what is your writing talking about. Why have you conducted? What have you conducted? And what have you arrived at? These are certain questions which should be answered under introduction. Literature review is researching or building a foundation for your research with the help of the previous work done. Surveying the previous work done, that comes under literature review. Methodology, the way in which you have conducted your research. I mean, there are various methodologies such as qualitative, quantitative is another, sample selection method, thereafter survey method, field work, library research. These are certain methodology, empirical research. These are certain methodologies through which you may collect your data and then conduct your research. An overview of the result. Once you apply certain methodology in order to investigate certain problem, you arrive at certain conclusion. So what are the results you have found? These are the findings that you discuss in your research in certain chapter. And at the end, your research should end with a conclusion. Now, here are certain steps which every person who would be writing a dissertation should undergo. Step 1, choosing your research topic very carefully. Now, I have very intentionally used the word carefully because many people just get influenced by certain ideas and then they randomly try to compile those in order to represent it in the form of a dissertation. But that does not work. You have to identify if that problem is really worth to investigate. After investigating that problem, would you be contributing something new or supporting in the stream of existing knowledge? If that is true, then you can go for the research. At the same time, many people fail to comprehend the essence or need of your research. Your research should be narrowed down, should be focusing on particular aspect, not just oral aspects in general. So important to the wider academic community. So your research should be helpful for the wider academic community. It should be of some use to the coming generations, at the same time to the ones who are doing research, conducting research, or who have already done a research. For those, your research should be helpful. So your topic should be of that importance. It is an opportunity to showcase your thoughts and ideas. So you have to be careful that you should have an interest in that topic, and you should have a very focused approach while dealing with your research. The topic should be achievable within your timeline. This is something is very important. So there is certain time frame in which you have to conduct research, compile it in the form of your book, that is dissertation, and submit it and defend it. You have to face the defense viva voce, right? So it has certain timeline. It can be from 2 to 3 years, most probably, for any ideal dissertation submissions. Or sometimes it may go for 6 months, or for dissertations like undergraduate thesis. So you have to understand what kind of topic you have chosen. Is it achievable? Can you finish studying it? Can you finish collecting data? Can you finish analyzing the data and leading to the conclusion within the time frame that has been provided? So you have to make sure that it should not be something which is not possible to achieve, which should not be impossible to achieve, right? It should be achievable target. And that's why you have to narrow down your topic. And you also have to understand why it's important. When you write a dissertation, you actually convince the reader why your work is important, what you have worked, what you have surveyed, analyzed, applied, and the kind of conclusions or findings you reached at. Why are they important? It is highly essential to convince the reader through your dissertation. So title itself of the dissertation is a representative of the kind of work you have done. People's interest will get attracted by reading just the title of the topic. At the same time, it should be very clear. There should not be any scope for any ambiguity, unclarity. It should be very clear and vivid and to the point, crisp and clear and brief. Next step is examine what is expected to you. Now, there are certain ethics, protocols, module handbooks, and referencing style guides. A student of research must read all these very important writings before the one starts writing the research or writing dissertation. So before you start writing, you should make sure that you have gone through proper reading of the research methodologies, ethics or protocols of research publications, handbooks and the modules, or how to put forth the references. There are various referencing styles, citations. Those you have to study before you go for your writing. How is a dissertation structured? As a student, you should get an awareness about how is the structure of a dissertation. I'm happy that all of you are here to understand that only, right? What types of source materials are used? At the same time, when you write a dissertation, you have to identify the source materials which will be complementing your write-up. What forms of analysis are perceived as appropriate? There are various forms of writing dissertation. There are various methodologies. There are various referencing systems, citation systems such as MLA, APA, Chicago, and many more according to various disciplines. So you have to first identify which one is appropriate to you and then study it in detail and then apply it in your work. Next step is have a clear goal and structure. Write a proposal outline of your dissertation. It is a very careful approach because proposal outline itself gives a very clear idea about how your dissertation will flow, in what format, and what it will be leading to. So it gives a very nice idea to the reader also and to the aspiring researchers. Reading and researching is very important. So when you go for writing a dissertation, you have to make sure that you do ample reading, ample research. This is what comes under literature review. You have to make sure that you glance through all the scholarly write-ups, like scholarly articles, books available on your particular area that you have chosen or topic you have chosen. If there is any other work previously done on the certain topic that you have chosen, if there are scholarly dissertations or theses or some very debate argumentative essays or some lecture notes or some really good lecture series available on your topic, you should glance through everything and write it in a literature review form. And only then you will be capable to understand or foreground your knowledge, get a foreground to your knowledge, and then you can build a very strong dissertation based on that. Structuring and restructuring. Now you should structure your writing in a dissertation in a very proper way. There is a very fixed structure to the dissertation writing. You should study that and follow it. It has a flow, very smooth flowing and very systematic, orderly flow, very logical one. If needed, if you later on find out before submission or before printing final dissertation, if you find out any additional points, or if you feel like deleting something or editing something, go for it. Unless until the moment of submissions or final printing, you have ample time in hand where you should always go for restructuring. Don't mind that, because that is a part and parcel of dissertation writing. Whatever you write for the first time cannot be your final one. There happens a lot of revisions. You have to undergo a lot of changes and you have to be very patient for that. Research doesn't happen just on a blink of an eye. It is a very patient process which needs a lot of patience, hard work, consistency, and dedication. So throughout these skills, you will achieve something that is very fruitful. Drafting and proofreading are very essential steps of dissertation writing. So when you will draft your structure and draft your research in a dissertation form, take help of the experts. Take help of those, especially if you are writing in English, you have to be very careful. Many people commit very silly mistakes, or if you use ambiguous terminologies or wrong collocations or cohesion devices, you are not aware about cohesive devices, then whatever you have written, it may lead to very weird or very wrong interpretations. So that is why you have to seek help of the experts for drafting and proofreading. At the same time, it is also your responsibility to cross-check everything out. Not necessary. It may happen rather that some mistake might be overlooked or might be slipped out of the hand or out of the mind of the proofreader. So it is rather a responsibility of a researcher, research scholar rather, to make sure that whatever you have written, write it responsibility, take responsibility of each and every word. Do not get faded away. It is sometimes students get exhausted because it's a very lengthy process. And this is a process which does not have a structured syllabus. as you might have been doing it in your schools or in your graduations for other subjects. Like you are studying for certain subject, reading lessons, you know certain questions. We'll just prepare for those questions. Out of those, any one of the questions will be there in some of the questions will be there in the final examination, and you will write really well answers and flying colors, right? It's not like that. It is a complete responsibility given to the researcher. Guide is there as a mentor, as a lighthouse or a beacon. Ultimately, you have to walk, you have to march. Guide will just show you the light to make the path clear. Ultimately, you have to walk on, lead on. Right as you go is the next step. So if you think that, okay, I am going to collect all data, I'm going to read everything out, I'm going to have everything ordered in my mind first, and then I'll start writing. It doesn't happen in that way. As you go ahead, start writing. For example, if you come across any article, read it out, summarize it, paraphrase it in a literature review form. Start collecting your literature review in from the day one itself. Start writing for it. It's very essential. Otherwise, what would happen? You'll have only piled up stuff, and then you will feel exhausted just looking at it. Oh my God, I have so many things to deal with. And you will just get confused, startled, where to begin from. So it doesn't have any beginning or an end. It should just flow smoothly. You just have to begin with literature review. Then you can start finalizing what topic you would like to take. What I mean, finalizing topic is the first step. Only on the basis of that, you'll go for a literature review. But you can reframe your title. At the same time, you can go for revising your objectives, revising your aims after going for research literature review. You may also find out certain very interesting methodology that will give a very new perspective to your work. So aim for a very suitable target, which should be achievable. Check that you have addressed everything. So once you finish your dissertation, you have to go through. Referencing is very important. And under the ethics and protocol of writing dissertation or writing any kind of research work, plagiarism is strictly prohibited. So you have to make sure that you understand the flag check tools very well. So if you don't cite a definition that you have been borrowed from some other resource, then it becomes a plagiarized material. So you have to learn the referencing system in a very proper way, citations in a very proper way. Frequent backup and research notes. Now we are living in a digital era. Most of us do have computers or access to computers. So we are typing everything out and we are believing that from day one itself, it's better. I ultimately have to type and then take a printout and then submit in a form of a dissertation, right? It is never written in handwritten form. It was written on typewriters previously. Now it's digitally printed through the help of computer writings, right? So you might be writing on your computers. Understand, this is an electronic system. Always make sure that you should always keep backups. I mean, if you finish writing certain pages, keep sending it to your email or keep it in draft. If you have more email IDs, keep sending it to those IDs. If you finish writing chapters, back it up on your drive or on your email IDs or your draft. Keep it in your pen drives. Keep it 4-5 places. So ultimately, if in case of some accident, unfortunate event, if your laptop crashes down or suddenly you lose this electronic data, then it may cause a lot of damage. So better be prepared than facing the loss in future. Keeping track. Always keep track of the continuity of your work that you are doing. At the same time, keep cross-checking if you are marching towards the correct direction or not. For that, you can anytime take help of your guide, your supervisor. Next step is continue to question. Questioning is an important skill while writing dissertation. It's very important because if you question, then you will have curiosity. If you have curiosity, only then you will investigate. If you investigate, only then you will find. And if you find, only then you will analyze, interpret, or apply methodologies, cross check it, experiment it, and only then you will lead to the conclusions. So questioning is very important. You should even question or challenge your own write up, and then you will understand if you have written it in a correct way or not. Maintain a questioning and critical mindset always. So do not do like what you have written, just love it and it's perfect. Criticize it and try to find out if there have gone some things wrong, or if there are some loopholes, or whatever statements you have made. Is it ambiguous, leading to multiple interpretations, or is it subtle, very straightforward? You have to cross check it, everything. At the same time, sometimes you may end up making certain statements which might not be much logical. So for that, you have to stand as a critic. You are the one who will help you out the best. Supervisor also has limitations. After certain extent, supervisor, as being under many duties, or having expertise in various skills, or supervising many more students, it may happen that sometimes each and every word may not be read carefully enough as a student or a research scholars may read, because it might be read in just a overall goal or just in a one go. So that will make difference. Or at the same time, you are the one who is writing, so you know what is in your mind behind writing this particular thing. What is your interpretation? So you might be aware about the this death of the author's theory, right? So when the word falls in the hand of the reader, the author dies there. The reader is free to interpret that. So if you want people not to lead to some weird, very varied conclusions, those you don't aim at, then be careful right now. Before the book falls in hand of the reader and the writer is no more in existence, right? Before that itself, take care of it. Make sure that every statement gives a very clear message. How strongly you are convinced by your own work. You have to cross check it out. Explain your reasoning and forming a strong argument. You have to be sure that whatever you have argued in your write-up, it should have a very strong foreground. It should have a lot of it should be backed up with lot of concrete evidences, lot of concrete data. Okay. Biography contains plenty of references. So make sure the all references should be cited in accurately in a correct way, following all the structures and the referencing style properly used to it. Next step is well structured, coherent, and polished. Whatever you write, it should be very well structured. It should be coherent, cohesive, and it should be properly polished. Polished means you have to revise it in a very proper way, eliminate mistakes, find out if it is collocating with other concepts or not. It is cohesively uh, addressing what you want to say or not. Is it structured in a correct way or not? You have to identify that. Reassessing the logic of the whole piece. Now, what is this? Reassessing the logic of the whole piece. You have to make sure that your dissertation is flowing in a logical order. It should not go as if you are talking about certain literature review and then thereafter you are talking about aims and objective of the research or scope for further research. No. Or hypothesis might be later on. It doesn't happen in that way. It has a sequence. You should go ahead with that. Sufficient time to proofreading and proof checking. Always have achievable targets along with the achievable subject, and always push yourself ahead, motivate yourself to pursue fair deadlines that have been put by yourself. You have to put fair deadlines which have a very nice brief of time before you begin the next one or submit. Before that, you should have ample time to reread each and every word that you have written in your dissertation, cross-check every structure. If I have left this spacing correctly, if there are margins correctly made, if the font size and font style is correct, am I using different kind of formatting and all, you get ample time. At the same time, where students go wrong, and why they are more caught into plagiarism, because they miss citations of a lot of important or even small referencings. They just overlook it, or they don't get enough time to cross check it, or they are very lazy to do that. No, doing research is something, is not everybody's cup of tea, right? If it is your cup of tea, then you have to make sure that you should not be lazy. It needs a lot of patience and consistency. Without being bored of it, you have to go ahead and finish the task. It has certain ethics. You have to follow those. Only then you will reach to the ultimate good conclusion. Main argument should always be supported by relevant citation. You can't just randomly say, make any random argument or statement. Whatever you have said, it should be backed up with lot of data. For example, if you say that India's population is the highest in the world, back it up with concrete data given by polls, government reports, okay, population countings reports and all. You have to international, national boards. Only then what you have said was correct. Contribution of the most influential theories and research. So you have to thank them in your references because you got an opportunity to refer them, which have given you ideas, which have given you methodologies, which has given you very interesting thoughts, or which have also given you a lot of backup to go ahead for your research. So this is generally is a standard form of any research. This is a table of contents. All these things are addressed in your dissertation. So title page, acknowledgement, abstract, table of contents, list of figures and tables, list of abbreviations, glossary, introduction, literature review or theoretical framework. These two are also different things. Methodology, results, discussion, conclusion, reference list, appendices, or you can also call bibliography in referencing. So this is how looks the title page that have been pasted on the right side. So title page is the first page, okay? And that page is also printed on the cover of your binded dissertation book, okay? So you have to be aware about that. Now, first page is what? It contains your name, name of your department, name of the institution, thereafter degree or program that you are pursuing, thereafter submission date. All these things are included. Now understand another point, that certain universities do have their own different forms or formats. Accordingly, you have to make sure that this is a rule 1, that you should first take the, hello?
Excuse me, ma'am. Your presentation is not visible, ma'am.
Not visible?
Yes, ma'am. Your presentation is not visible.
Okay, I'll reshare it. It happened just few minutes back, or it's from a long time?
Just now, ma'am. Just now, ma'am.
Okay. Let me know if it's visible.
Yes, ma'am. It is visible, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is what is title page again. So rule number 1 is, wherever you have taken admission or where you have you are selected for pursuing research, take a handbook, guide handbook from them first. Read all the rules carefully and follow those. There are certain norms given for how to write a title page, how to cite references. They have recommended their own systems. Okay. Sometimes some institute also may include students' number, supervisor's number, or the university's logo and other stuff. So many programs have strict requirements for formatting the dissertation title page. The title page is often used as a cover while printing and binding the dissertation. So please remember the rule number 1, that you have to always read out every detail possible. At the same time, rule number 2 is, before you finalize everything, refer to the old dissertation submitted to that department. If you don't have direct access, go and talk with the concerned faculty member, request them. Sorry, is it visible?
It is visible, ma'am.
Yeah. Request them to give you the access to that so you can glance through it properly. And if you can find any differences, then eliminate the differences. Or if you think whatever you have done is correct, it might possible that somehow something might have been skipped in the previous work. You can cross-check with your guide or the expert and ask them, this is addition that you have found in your work. So is it okay if that you can print and submit? So if that is fine, you can go ahead with it. Now this is a beautiful page, which is again optional in certain cases. That is acknowledgement. When you work, you always get motivation and guidance from many people. So this is a place we can thank to those who have helped us in writing our dissertation. Writing doesn't mean seriously sitting there and typing it for you or thinking for you. All those who have guided you, gave you brainstorming sessions, like your friends, or the ones like family members who have always cheered you up, motivated you up, because of whom you are very consistent. When your spirit drops down, they are the one who cheers you up, motivates you. I know that you can do it, you can achieve it. Reach to your goal, we are there to back you up. So this is a page where you can thank to those people. Along with them, you must thank your supervisor and the participants in your research. For example, if you are doing a research in psychology, you may need a subject, lot many people as subject. Or if you are collecting data through questionnaire or interview method, you might have approached to people who might have agreed to give an interview to you. See, now this is a very small piece of page which has hardly 1 or 2 paragraphs. So not necessary, for example, you have taken interview of 100 people. You don't have to thank hundreds of them. You have to thank only prominent people who have made your dissertation submission possible. They help you out, including your supervisor. Some dissertations after acknowledgement also do have page of certification. So that certification guide gives, as I certified this student as qualifying to submit this dissertation and who has worked under me, and with the university's logos, guide also signs. So that page of certification is also there. Abstract. Now the abstract is a very important part of your writing. Henceforth, your real writing starts. Abstract is something that gives you the reader an idea about the flow of your write-up. See, when I talked about introduction, I told you the same thing, right? But what's the difference? Abstract is comparatively bigger than introduction. But it should not exceed than 1 page in cases of dissertation or thesis. Okay, so abstract is a short summary of your dissertation, usually about 150 to 300 words. In certain cases, lengthy dissertations, it goes around 500 to 1000 words, but not more than 1 page. You should write it at the very end when you have completed the rest of the dissertation. Now, this is the best part, Abstract practically appears as a first document when you print your dissertation. It's the first piece of your writing that starts talking about your dissertation. But abstract is a summary, right? When can you summarize? When something at hand gets finished, right? So you have to finish the work or research at hand, lead to the conclusion, finish everything up, and then you have to summarize. So while printing, abstract though comes first, but while writing, you have to write abstract at the last. Understood? In the abstract, make sure to state the main topic. These are certain elements of abstract. State the main topic and aim of your research. Describe the methods you used. Summarize the main results, those you have arrived at, and state your conclusions. What are your conclusions? If possible, go for my other lecture. I have given lecture for IoT only on how to draft a good title for your dissertation or thesis. Go for that. I have talked about various aspects of abstract and writing the title. Although the abstract is very short, it is the first part and sometimes the only part of your dissertation that people will read. So it's important that you get it right. Now, why I have said that first and only might be only because if your abstract is not crafted well, people will lose interest and they will not go through your detailed research. So you have to make sure that your abstract should be very well crafted. Table of contents, you have to very carefully craft it. Table of content also you have to write it later on. You can start writing at the beginning, but you have to cross-check everything if everything is mentioned in your table of contents or not. So all your chapters, the subheadings of the chapter, and along with the page numbers. The page of contents of a dissertation gives the reader an overview of your structure and helps easily navigate the document. It is same like page of contents in the book. For example, if you want to read a chapter and of understanding mind in a book of psychology, in which the writer has talked on various aspects, okay, of psychology or various theories and methodologies, what will you do? You'll just scroll through the table of contents, reach to the chapter, understanding mind, check the page number and open directly that, right? That is why page of contents very important. So that helps the reader to lead to the particular thing. All parts of your dissertation should be included in the table of contents, including the appendices. You can generate a table of content automatically in Word. So there are certain softwares now available. You just have to put your dissertation complete one and the table of content is automatically generated. Again, I'm telling you, do not rely even on the digital medium. We are human beings, that is AI, artificial intelligence. It can err. It can create blunders or make blunders. So you have to make sure that you cross-check everything responsibly because your work of research is your responsibility. So make sure that there are no loopholes or no wrong things conveyed. List of figures and tables. So if you have used a lot of tables or figures in your dissertation, you should arrange them in a number of lists after the table of contents. You can automatically generate the same by using the insert caption in feature in Word. List of abbreviation. Under insert, there is table of contents. You can use the table and figures. List of abbreviations. Now, many of the times what happens that there are very repetitive terminologies. For example, in my case, Indian English is called as IE or British English is called as BRE or WHO, World Health Organization. Now, WHO is something very internationally renowned. So you don't have to explain that. But if you have made your own abbreviations or less known abbreviations if you have used, then you have to make sure that at the beginning of the page itself, you give the list of all the abbreviations you have used to avoid might be the repetition or to take it as it is, as if the concepts might be like that. But what you have to do is you have to make sure that they should be alphabetical, they should be arranged, organized in an alphabetical order. So in case if on the page number 19, some person suddenly comes across IE, to understand ID, he doesn't have to struggle through the page, this list of abbreviations. He can directly lead to ABCD, then I, and find out under IE, that is Indian English. And that fellow will understand. Fine. So that is why page of abbreviation is also very prominent. Glossary. If you have used a lot of highly specialized terms that will not be familiar to your reader, it might be a good idea to include a glossary. List the terms alphabetically again and explain each term with a brief description or a definition. So when you list the abbreviations also, for example, IE, in front of it, you have to give the full explanation or full form of it. Introduction, you set up your dissertation's topic, purpose, and relevance, and tell the reader what to expect in the rest of the dissertation. Now, in introduction, you don't have to talk about the findings that you have arrived at. You just have to give an overall skeleton that what problem you are investigating and which methodologies you might be uh, applying or employing. So what is your topic? What is your purpose of your research? And what is its relevance in the contemporary time? How it is important. The introduction should have established your research topic, necessary background information to contextualize your work. So after reading the introduction, the reader will get an understanding about what kind of topic the reader is going to read on. Okay, that is why introduction is very important. So it helps to link the dots. Okay, connect the dots. Narrow down the focus and define the scope of your research. Discuss the state of existing research on the topic, showing your work's relevance to a broader problem or debate, how your work is very relevant and how it will be really helpful on a wider scale to a wider mass of people or mass of scholars. Clearly state your objectives and research questions and indicate how you will answer them. Give an overview of your dissertation structure. Everything in the introduction should be clear, engaging, and relevant to your research. By the end, the reader should understand the what are you investigating, why are you investigating, and how are you investigating in your research. These questions should be answered in your introduction. Please remember, as you have to be very keen and careful while crafting your abstract, you have to be very careful while drafting your introduction too, because the success of your work depends on the abstract as well as introduction. If it is capable to invoke interest in the reader's heart, only then the reader is going to go through your whole work, read your whole work, and understand it, put efforts to understand it. If it is boring or very pale, nobody will even bother to go ahead with what you have worked hard on, how much efforts you have put in. Everything will go west. Literature review or theoretical framework. Before you start on your research, you should have conducted a literature review to gain a thorough understanding of the academic work that already exists on your topic. So many times, not necessarily that you are the only one who is investigating on certain problem. Let's say malnutrition in lactating mothers. This might be the topic. Now, somebody in Africa might have already worked on it, but I might be doing not only in India, but in only particular part in Maharashtra. Because doing in India is not possible for me alone. That is something unachievable. That is what is narrow line topic, okay? Your topic or your research should always be achievable. So before I start writing or before I start really researching, I should have done a background study. A background study will be done through a literature review. And when we say literature review, it's not only texts or books or articles, but also lecture notes or listening interviews or approaching people for interviews and all. So everything comes under literature review. And that builds a very strong foundation and understanding to the kind of work you are going to undertake. This means collecting resources like books, general articles, selecting the most relevant ones, critically evaluating and analyzing each source. Now, writing a literature review doesn't mean that summarizing something. You also have to talk on what kind of problem the next scholar had investigated, what conclusion he has arrived, critically point it out, analyze it in a proper way, and you have to interpret in a correct way. It's not summarizing, but critically evaluating the value of the work that had been done by the next scholar. and how that is applicable or suitable to the kind of work you are considering or undertaking. For example, I might have found in some very good article or a work of a person who has conducted the same research in Africa, that after this project or after this research, that fellow understood that this is a very grave problem, that lactating mothers are malnutrition. Most of the lactating mothers are malnutrition, and that is causing again malnutrition among children. And that may cause danger to mother's health. She may be prone to get infected by diseases very quickly because she has a very less immune system. She has very less capacity. She is not strong or weak. So these are the conclusions of the study, and the certain solutions might have been given. So this is something is very prominent that has been found out after certain research work. So drawing connection between them to make an overall point. In the dissertation, literature review chapter or section, you shouldn't just summarize existing studies, but develop a coherent structure, argument that leads to a clear basis or justification for the work that you are undertaking. For example, it might aim to show how your research addresses gap in the literature. I mean, you can not only always show only positive sides, but you can also talk in negative terms that see, there is no data available on the topic that I have chosen. People have very less investigated, this topic is less ventured. And this is something is very serious, one should pay attention to. But nobody has done any work before me. So you can address the literature gaps like this. Take a new theoretical or methodological approach to the topic. Propose a solution to an unresolved problem. There might be certain work which have been concluded on this note, that malnutrition mother causes malnutrition in children, and they are also prone to a lot of diseases. This is just a conclusion. You are not offering any solution. You, with this conclusion, may come across or may come out with a new approach or applying new theory or methodology and new kind of solutions offering. So in order to solve the problem, because when you conclude in this way, the problem is not solved, just investigated. So when we do research, we just don't investigate problem. We just make sure that we should come out with concrete solutions so to end the problem. And that is what will be the contribution. Investigating problem will not be a contribution. Advances a theoretical debate. Builds on strengthen an existing knowledge with the new data. This is what a literature review has a very strong role in the dissertation work. A literature review often becomes the basis of a theoretical framework in which you define and analyze the key theories, concepts, and models that frame your research. In this section, you can answer descriptive research questions about the relationship between concepts and variables. Methodology chapter or section describes how you conducted your research, allowing your readers to access its validity. You should generally include the overall approach or type of research: quantitative, qualitative, experimental, ethnographic. Ethnographic, studying certain ethnicity, a group of people like tribal people or folk literature or certain behavior patterns or culture in certain areas. Your methods of collecting data, interviews, surveys, or archives. Details of where, when, with whom the research took place. Your methods of analyzing data, statistical analysis, discourse analysis. So when you say statistical analysis, that goes under quantitative because statistics, it deals with numbers. When you say discourse analysis, that goes under qualitative because discourse deals with text, pieces of speeches. Tools and materials you used. For example, computer programs, lab equipments in the field of science. A discussion of any obstacles you faced in conducting the research and how you overcame them. An evaluation or justification of your methods. In the methodology, your goal is to accurately report what you did while also convincing the readers that this was the best approach to answering your research question or objective. Now, along with this, you also have to add hypothesis or statement of problem, aims and objectives of your research, and scope for further research, scope and limitation of your research. For example, scope and limitation under that, scope of my research was investigating problem of lactating malnutrition among lactating mothers in one of the villages in Pune in India, Maharashtra. And limitation is only Maharashtra, not other state or other villages in Maharashtra. So that might be the limitation. So results. So after investigating your data, analyzing the data, you have to reach to the results. So you can structure this section around sub questions, hypotheses, and topics. Only report results that are relevant to your objectives and research questions. In some disciplines, the result section is strictly separated from the discussion, while in others, two are combined. For example, for qualitative methods like in-depth interviews, the presentation of the data will often be woven together with discussion and analysis. While in quantitative and experimental research, the research should be presented separately in a draft or graph or in a table form, and then the discussion will happen. If you are unsure, consult with your supervisor which method to be used for result section, or you can also look at the previous samples or dissertation to find out the best structure for your research. In the research section, it can often be helpful to include tables, graphs, charts. Think carefully about how best to present your data, and don't include just tables and figures to repeat what you have written. They should provide some extra information and add on into, at the same time, support to what statements you have made. Discussion session. This section is where you explore the meaning and implications of your research in relation to your research questions. Here, you should interpret the results in detail, discussing whether they meet your expectations and how will they fit with the framework that you built in earlier chapters. If any of the results were unexpected, offer explanations why this might be, or this might be your something new finding that you have not thought about before starting when you started with the research. It's a good idea to consider alternative interpretations of your data and discuss any limitations that might have influenced the results. The discussion should refer other scholarly work to show how your results fit with existing knowledge. You can also make recommendations for future research and practical actions. Scope for further research should always be there in every dissertation and also thesis, because that gives an opportunity to the upcoming research scholars to get new ideas, to understand what is your limitation. They might explore more on that. So for example, I have worked surveying in one particular village. There may come somebody who can apply the same methodology or same model studying in some other village or other state in India. Conclusion section should concisely answer the main research question. It should be the solution oriented. Okay, there should no more be discussing on the research problem or investigating. It should offer only solutions and ultimate conclusion of your study, leaving the reader with a clear understanding of your central argument. A final reflection on what you did and how you did it. Recommendations for research or practice. How your findings contribute to the knowledge or new knowledges in the field. Why your research matters. What have you added to what was already known? So what is your contribution that should be highlighted in conclusion. Referencing is very important part. That is also known as bibliography in thesis. Or you can even consider citations under it. So you should include full details of all sources, those you have cited in reference list. Sometimes it is also called as a works cited list or bibliography. It's important to follow a consistent reference style. This style has strict and specific requirements. Please remember this for how to format your sources in a reference list. For example, most common styles used in UK universities are Howard reference system or Wenscourt referencing. Your department will often specify or recommend certain reference styles, such as psychology students tend to use APA style, humanities, MHRA, law students, Oscola, or there is Chicago style, there is MLA style sheet. So make sure that you understand it in a very proper way, study it thoroughly, and make sure to cite each and every minor, major, every reference. Appendices is something very interesting, very important. At the same time, for certain dissertation, it may not be an obligatory part. Sometimes you cannot add certain information in your main writing. For example, let's say you have conducted online interviews through Google Form. So what was your overall interpretation, or that has been in graph form? You can download that in Excel form or in Word form and attach it as a proof document to your dissertation in appendices. So documents essential information that directly contributes to answering your research question. For example, interview samples of people, documents you have used, or let's say photographs also. If you have gone there, took photograph and surveyed it physically, or took the reports of the lecturing methods, you can attach those as some of the samples. Documents you have used that do not fit into the main body of your dissertation, such as interview transcripts, survey questions, or tables with full figures, can be added into appendices. These are certain mistakes one should avoid while writing dissertation. Your dissertation's preliminary pages are missing, or incomplete, or out of order. Not allowed. Your dissertation's abstract is longer than 1 page. That's a severe mistake. Your dissertation contains multiple formatting problems. You should focus on single problem and should have a focused approach. Narrowed down research. Your dissertation contains words from the proposal stage. So you have to make sure that I am proposing, or I would like to investigate this problem. No, that is in proposal. When you write dissertation, I have investigated the researcher has investigated this problem and reached to this conclusion. So it is in past form. When you write research proposal, that's in simple present form or future form. Okay, so you have to identify that. Don't copy your dissertation proposal. Your dissertation contains academic integrity violation. If academic integrity violations like plagiarism, not following norms, copying material, or stealing material, these are violations of academic integrity. Your dissertation contains grammatical errors, jargons, unclear paragraph organization, or any other common writing blunders. That will ultimately fail your writing and rejection of your work. So once you follow all these parameters, understand and follow academic integrity, ethics and protocols of follow ethics and protocol of writing, cite each and every reference system, do ample study, write ample literature review, have a very strong concrete foundation to your work, and work on such a statement of problem which will give a kind of conclusion that will be helpful on a wider scale to a wider public, not to some limited people, right? And then if you follow all these things, do not plagiarize, cite or references, then you will fly in, you will definitely been awarded with your degree. And then you will get an opportunity to throw the hats like this. So thank you so much, all of you. These are certain references I have used. And now I open the session to discussion. Over to you, ma'am.
The session is open for discussion now. You can unmute and interact with the resource person, or you can post the questions in the chat box also. Ma'am is here to help you. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
If you can't unmute, you can write questions in chat box. Yes, how to avoid plagiarism, right? So, okay, how to write references in alphabetical order? Is there any technology to save time? There are a lot of softwares. You can just feed the data in and then it arranges in an alphabetical order. At the same time, another suggestion will be whenever you start writing, you better start, you create separate page or doc of it and start pasting it one by one in an alphabetical way. So even when you have reached to I, and while writing you suddenly get a concept from which has beginning from F, you can anytime go back and according to alphabetical order paste it there. And once you finish your writing, you can simply cut it and paste it to your main dissertation. Okay, how to avoid plagiarism? Now there are certain plagiarism tools like Turnitin, which give you a thorough report, and it's a very colorful report if you see. So they give a report with a lot of red, green, yellow lines, and even the whole paragraphs made colorful. And at the end of the report, they give you the resources from which they found that material is plagiarized. Go back to that site, make sure, go back to that paragraph, cross-check it where you have taken it from, and cite it in your reference that you have taken it from here. But not necessarily, now you can't cite each and every paragraph that you have taken from some source. Then what is your contribution? So what you can do is at that time, if these are not definitions, because if definitions we have to take as it is, we can't change those. But if those are just text or paragraphs, those you have taken from other resources, paraphrase them. If you paraphrase them and alter the word order or sentence order in a logical way, of course, then that sentence does not come under plagiarism. So in that way, you can minimize your plagiarism. Could you please highlight the difference between aims and objectives of the study? Okay. So before you start the study, you have certain aims in your mind that I want to achieve this, I want to do research in this. Objective is what you want to gain from it. Aim is what you want to do from this research. Objective is what you want to gain. What are the gains you are expecting from this study to obtain, to highlight? Objectives always often begin like this: to highlight the current situation or to highlight the grave situation of lactating mothers, malnutrition of lactating mothers, to highlight the failure of certain strategies or planning, something like that. Yes, any other question?
Any other questions?
Video recording link, ma'am will share it with you.
We will be sharing, ma'am.
Yes, and you have to subscribe IoT, then you will get all the videos. If possible, please go through my previous session on how to write correct title. That is very informative and that will be helpful for the students who are and the research scholars who would like to go for dissertation writings and thesis writing.
Any other questions? You can post the questions in chat box also. I'll read it to ma'am. Yes. How the dissertation is different from PhD?
Pardon, ma'am?
How the dissertation is different from PhD?
Of course. So dissertation is usually recommended for undergraduate students for fulfilling their degree. It's just in partial fulfillment of. That's what we write on the front page of it. In the partial fulfillment of. Okay. Or it might be for MPhil degree. So it's actually comparatively smaller scale of research comparatively to PhD, but larger scale of research comparatively to the research project or just a research paper. And it flows around from 60 to 100 page, 80 to 100 pages, let's say, in India, in most of the Indian universities. And PhD thesis is actually a very larger kind of research that happens for many more years. So the span of submission is also very different. For dissertation, if it is not undergraduate, if you are talking in terms of MPhil, then it's for 2 years. max 2 years, okay? And if it is PhD, then max 5 years, or minimum 3 years and max 5 years. So these many years you have to take to collect data, to read, to analyze. So dissertation investigate on little comparatively narrow problem, where under PhD, you investigate on a comparatively broader problem or broader scale. That's the difference.
Any other questions?
Any other question? Okay. But I hope I have resolved your problem. Yes, Miss Neha.
Sneha ma'am, do you have any question ma'am?
See, there are a lot of softwares and tools now which will help you to paraphrase data. I mean, if you want to get rid of this plagiarism, at the same time, referencing, especially from referencing, there are ready-made tools. You just have to put the details of the book or article that you are using under your literature review, or for taking some information under citation. You just have to put the details. It generates the automatic uh, this referencing or bibliography for you. So there are very different bibliography tools also available now. So now there are a lot of advanced techniques available. You just have to study those, investigate, and you can definitely help those, but don't rely completely on those, because it is, after all, artificial intelligence. It may cause some very major blunder. So responsibility, max to max possibility, do it by yourself. That's the best solution. And always take the help of expert. Please do not hesitate to proofread your document several times. Get it checked, peer reviewed by many more people who are expert from your fields. Okay.
Ma'am, please post some best online resources for guidance to write thesis.
Okay. Okay, if I heard this, if we check for plagiarism, the software to save our data. So if our data checked in university software will show as plagiarist. It's not true. See, you have to go for some authentic plagiarism software like Turnitin. There are certain plagiarism software available online free of cost, but the authenticity is question mark. You just can experiment. Open 3 softwares, put your data in it. You can find 3 different reports. So don't rely on those. Go for only authentic plagiarism software. If you are pursuing your research in certain university or certain department, they have their own authentic or official plagiarism software. Request them for that and get your work checked for plagiarism from it only. Only then it will generate the authentic report. Otherwise, it will be a problem. And data does not get lost. It shows what I told you. When you get the plagiarism report, your whole data is as it is, but made colorful. So it shows colors, and then at the end, it shows with the colors the resources from where it has been cited as plagiarized. So it shows your whole document as it is. Then it is you rather who has to eliminate or revise, paraphrase data. Thank you so much. Yes, any more questions?
Any other questions?
Yes, and what you can do best is there are some really good lecture series available on online resources, especially on YouTube, from IIT professors on how to write theses or dissertations. If possible, there are certain MOOC courses also on this. If you are really keen into it, if you want to study it in detail, because this is just a 1 or 1.5 session, right? That is just a beginning and introduction to eliminate doubts from your mind. But if you want to get a detailed understanding or detailed expertise in writing, referencing, or see, when you write a dissertation, you have to be very careful while even using dots, commas. I also had written a book chapter under in a book on humanities. I can share the name of that book with ma'am if possible, if she wants. You can take that book. I have written one chapter on writing mechanism or for a dissertation and thesis. Okay, writing mechanism, because this is something is very neglected, but that causes a lot of blunders. You have to know when to give comma, where to give colon, where to give full stop. If it goes wrong, then your whole dissertation goes in mess. So you have to be very careful about that. Let me just check if that resource is available. Just a second. Sure, give me a second. I'm just checking out if I have the link available with me. So you have to be careful while, you have to, especially when you are writing in English, you have to very carefully write it. You should eliminate all the wrong things, mistakes. See, there was a handbook. I'm just pasting it in the chat box, those who wanted the resources. I'd written this book chapter, Signpost and Mechanism of Writing in Research. So that is helpful for all kind of writings. And that book is there in this handbook on research methodology for social sciences. But it is useful for other disciplines also, because I've written it for humanities and natural sciences and core science subjects too. You can get reference from this. At the same time, if you want, you can pursue some really good book course on NPTEL or on Coursera, let's say. But my recommendation is, if you are pursuing research from Indian University, go for certain courses from NPTEL only. Because if you pursue from some other university, Western University, or some university from UK, US, their norms of writing are very different than us. I'm not sure if that book is available online. I think it might be on Amazon. You just have to check it out. But if you are really interested, I can talk with the publisher and arrange copies. You can just contact ma'am, and then I can get back to you on the same.
Any other questions?
Any more questions from your side? Only my suggestion is go for authentic resources. Please do not take help of, nowadays there is a boom of many intellectual people. Now that intellectual is very debatable word, because these people are just helping other people writing dissertations and theses. Practically, it should not happen. It is your interest on which you want to investigate and contribute. So it is you who is supposed to do it thoroughly. People like us who have experience will be there to help you out as a helping hand, guide, or mentor. But we are not supposed to write each and every word or even your research paper or dissertation. If you come across any such sites, websites, organizations, please do not fall prey to them. Have confidence in yourself. Each and every individual have the capacity to contribute into writing. Okay. See, we are human beings, right? We are very blessed because we are curious by nature. At the same time, we all are very intellectual. Because of this intellectual, curious, and creative faculty, at the same time, our physical structure of implementing ideas into realities, right? I have an innovative idea, and that's why I have created the flying machine. That is what is known as aeroplane today. And it's successfully flying in the air. Why that had happened? Because of the human intellect. So every human being is intellectual and capable to conduct a research and successfully conclude the research. So please do it on your own. Whenever you need any help, take help of 100 hands, 100 intellectual people. But do not pull those hands into your research and make them write it for you. Then that will be just as nothing as it is. It will not be an authentic work from your side. It will be somebody's work, just you are getting credit for it. And at the bottom of your heart, you know that it is you, it is not you who has done it, right? Okay, how to avoid grammar mistakes while writing a thesis? Grammarly is really a good website. Go for it. Go for the basic version at the beginning. If you have a group of people, then together you can buy that version. But buy it whenever you need it. When it is a time, there is just 1 month gap before the final submission, because it will give you, you have to pay monthly or for certain subscription or yearly subscription, right? So buy it together, so it will cost very less. At the same time, it is a very authentic website, which software rather, which helps you out. Even it gives some contextual suggestions, also advanced suggestions, if you buy that version. And another thing, let me tell you, sometimes Grammarly also gives very stupid suggestions. So very important thing is you should have a fair and basic knowledge of English. I am also available if somebody needs help in proofreading. I do proofreading. I have certain friends who are also there to help them out. So those who are who have specialization in English, who have fair knowledge of English, give it to those for proofreading, because something that is recommended by software is also not necessary is correct. Another thing is, while getting proof checked, give it to a person who has a fair knowledge of your subject. For example, I am a person of English. Okay. And if you give me a dissertation or thesis of science, I may not do a contextual justice to it from contextual point of view. If certain context has gone wrong, I may not understand it because that's not my area of expertise. But if you want only grammar check, then I can help you out for that. Free plagiarism software, there are many. You have to Google search it. I did it once from one website. Give me a second, I'm just checking it out. And I found it paperpass.net. Paperpass.net. That was okay. I mean, still I am doubtful about the authenticity. Turnitin is good, really good. But you can go for this. Even Grammarly also plag check your paper, but there is certain limitation of certain thousand of words. So what you can do best is you can cut and paste it twice or thrice, however is needed, and accordingly get it checked. But make sure that every time you paste the bibliography, don't forget that. Otherwise, your first part will be fully plagiarized.
Any other questions? Think there are no more questions, ma'am. Shall we wind up, ma'am?
Yes. So just believe in yourself, put your heart to your work, and enjoy your research. I personally have spent my 10 years of research. I had very good job opportunities, but I was so much keen into research because I, got that knack of joy of research that I rejected those opportunities and spent my 10 years in researching only in Indian English. And whatever I have achieved out of that is amazing and unparalleled. I cannot get that joy from any other resource. And I am very proud and very confident and satisfied because it is my work done completely by myself. I have typed each and every word of my thesis and dissertation both. I have done my MPhil and PhD both. I submitted PhD research at the same time MPhil research also. So I have taken full 3 years and 5 years for both. So believe in yourself and do it by yourself and enjoy doing it. It's a little lengthy process. If you stay consistent, you will finish in deadline. If you go down, feel lazy, it's gonna pay you a lot and it will extend your many more years. We can't afford that, so stay consistent. So before you start or jump into that field, mentally prepare, stay mentally prepared, and then jump into it. That will help you out for sure. Yes. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you so much, IoT again. Over to you, ma'am.
On behalf of IoT Academy, we thank Dr. Vidya ma'am for the enriching and enlightening session. Thank you once again for the amazing presentation, ma'am. We thank you for enhancing our knowledge with your commendable presentation, ma'am. Thank you very much for your efforts, ma'am. And I thank all the participants for joining the session today. Kindly submit the feedback form using the link that has been posted in the chat box. Thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your efforts, ma'am. It was an amazing session. Thank you very much, ma'am. Kindly submit the feedback form using the link that has been posted in the chat box. Thank you all.